All right, today we have to talk about the situation for Oklahoma at quarterback and this offense and how we got here. But before we do that, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know what you guys are thinking down in the comments below. What do you guys currently think about OU's quarterback situation, and where do you think they're going to go in the future? Do you think they will be as good as what we have seen in the past? So, what a year it has been for the Oklahoma Sooners in all aspects of the team, but especially at the quarterback room. So, with missing Dylan Gabriel for part of the TCU game and then missing him for all of the Texas game, we have seen quarterback play that has been absolutely abysmal with Davis Bevel at the helm. And I guess apparently Nick Evers and General Booty and those guys not being any better than Davis Bevel because we haven't seen them. So the questions that most Sooners fans and I had up to this point is, how did the OU QB situation get so bad after we had so many successful years and it seemed like we were so deep in recruiting so well? To answer this question, we're going to have to take a deeper look into what this room looked like starting all the way back in 2014. So in 2014, your head coach was Bob Stoops and Josh Heupel was your offensive coordinator. You had Blake Bell and you had Trevor Knight, but it was not a great season. Ultimately, it led up to Josh Heupel being fired and being replaced by a guy by the name of Lincoln Riley. In Lincoln Riley's 5 years at East Carolina University, he was explosive and was definitely, if not already, on the verge of becoming a rising star. If you didn't know who Lincoln Riley was at that time as a head coach, what were you doing? In that 5 years, he averaged 33.9 points per game, averaged 56.6 touchdowns a year, and averaged a little over 5,751 yards a year. His best year coming in 2013, where he had 40 points per game, 68 total touchdowns that year, and 6,086 yards. Now, 2014, you could say, was a pretty good year, but he had 6,929 yards, but he didn't necessarily have the touchdown numbers and the points per game. So I look at 2013 and say that was Lincoln Riley's best year at East Carolina. And so Bob Stoops has a decision to make. I have to replace Josh Heupel, an OU legacy guy who everybody loves, with somebody that's going to come out here and reconstruct and revamp this OU offense for the future. So, looking through his success at ECU, OU fans were excited for what the future was going to bring and hold with Lincoln Riley. In his first year at Oklahoma, you saw Lincoln Riley has already generated a ton of excitement with his new quote-unquote legendary quarterback, Baker Mayfield. That year, he threw for 3,700 total yards compared to, I believe it was Trevor Knight's 2,400 the year before, had a 68.1% completion percentage, rushed for over 405 yards, had 36 passing touchdowns, and 7 rushing touchdowns. We got to see the start of what I would consider the modern dual threat quarterback, right? We also got to see the dynamic duo at the running back room that would be here for several years, but then also would pick back up later on with Rodney Anderson and Trey Sermon. They had an incredible year, rushing for over 2,000 yards and 23 touchdowns. And then you had a wide receiver and tight end room that were going to be a force for years, that was going to continually be retooled every single year with fresh new bodies and talent. Guys like CeeDee Lamb, you had D.D. Westbrook, Sterling Shepard, Jaden Hazelwood, so many of these guys, they were able to go out there and make plays for you. In 2015, we saw the talent at quarterback was not short with guys like Baker Mayfield and the number 8 overall quarterback in the 2013 class, Cody Thompson and Trevor Knight. So you look at that quarterback room and you go, that's a decent quarterback room. Because what you would consider to be the third string guy is a true freshman in Cody Thomas, who was a highly recruited quarterback in that class. And then your second overall quarterback was a guy that went and won you the Sugar Bowl against Alabama when nobody really thought you had a shot. Now, in 2016, you had kind of a mass exodus into the transfer portal with Cody Thomas and some other guys that were there, and Trevor Knight had left to go to Texas A&M. So you only had Baker Mayfield and the true freshman, number 9 overall QB in the previous year, Austin Kendall. In 2017, your room got massively deeper with 6 total quarterbacks. The most notable ones being, again, senior Heisman winning quarterback Baker Mayfield, Austin Kendall, and the 5-star number 1 dual threat QB of the 2015 class who transfers to the University of Oklahoma from Texas A&M, Kyler Murray. And what did we see from Kyler Murray? In 2018, he goes out there, has a Heisman year, gets picked as the number 1 overall quarterback in the NFL draft, and has a stellar season for the Sooners, right? And you maintain a stable quarterback room with 5 quarterbacks, including, again, another true freshman, 4-star, number 11 dual threat quarterback, Tanner Mordecai. Now, why is it, I'm going to pause here, because why is it so important that I'm mentioning these true freshmen in these classes? Because these were guys that we were really excited to see what they could potentially do, because look at what Lincoln did with these transfers. What would it be like if Lincoln could go out there and develop these quarterbacks? I put the word if in there for a reason. In 2019, you expected a drop-off in this offense for Lincoln as you saw Austin Kendall transfer to West Virginia, and then again, Kyler Murray got drafted in the NFL draft, number 1. However, not so fast, because Lincoln does it again, goes into the transfer portal, and takes another stellar quarterback in Jalen Hurts from Alabama, retaining Tanner Mordecai and bringing in a true freshman, 5-star, number 11 overall, number 1 quarterback in the class, Spencer Rattler. So this is where we really started to see the genius mindset of Lincoln Riley on the offensive side of the ball start to pay off in quarterback recruiting. This is where you really start to see the fan base get excited, because there was a lot of things to be excited about with Spencer Rattler. So at this point, you're probably looking at this video and going, Preston, so where did it go wrong? But before we get more into it, you guys haven't liked yet. So go ahead, hit the like button on the video, hit the subscribe button. 78% of you guys that watch my videos are not subscribed. So go ahead and hit the subscribe button and we'll pick back up here in 5 seconds. All right. In 2020, our lives were shocked. They were uprooted with the pandemic of COVID-19. And college football was in jeopardy of losing a season. Fans were about to be beside themselves. Luckily, we saw numerous sports decide to pick it up, rally together to bring people hope, even if it was only a limited number of games or a bubble in Disney World or whatever it looked like, right? It at least brought people together and gave hope that we would get through it. However, this was probably one of the harder years for the Sooners, dropping 2 of their first 3 games before bouncing back against Texas, where the number 1 overall quarterback last year got benched for a quarterback, Tanner Mordecai, before Spencer decided he wanted to come back in the game and rally the team to a 9-2 finish to beat Florida in the Cotton Bowl. At this point, OU fans thought, okay, We've got it together. We've got guys like Theo Weiss. We've got Spencer Rattler. Our defense is looking good. We've got a shot the next year. The following year in 2021, again, you felt like you were going to have a strong year. You recruited the number 7 overall player, number 2 quarterback, who honestly should have been the number 1 quarterback, but we'll get to that here in a second, Caleb Williams, while also retaining Spencer Rattler. However, you did lose Tanner Mordecai in the transfer portal. Again, this is another year where we get to the Texas game. Spencer Rattler gets benched in that game, but this time he doesn't retain his position and he loses it to a true freshman with Caleb Williams. What happens after that? The rest is history, right? Caleb Williams comes out, has some moments where he looks like a superstar, but then has some moments where he struggles. This is the problem with playing a true freshman quarterback in a season where you definitely don't need to. 2021, you probably could have slid by with Spencer Rattler. He had the experience to win those games for you. He had the arm talent. And you probably would have liked to see Caleb Williams sit a little bit longer, gain some experience, and start the next year in 2022. But wait, there was a plot twist. Lincoln Riley announced that he was going to leave the University of Oklahoma and take numerous players with him, along with one of those being Caleb Williams, to the USC Trojans. Additionally, you see guys like Spencer Rattler and Austin Stogner transfer to the University of South Carolina. And why would Spencer Rattler want to stay? Because the coach that recruited him wasn't here. The fan base wasn't behind him and supporting him. So it was time for Spencer to get a fresh start. And now you were left with 2 walk-ons as 2 seniors graduate. So again, we get back to the question, where did it go wrong? Well, for one, Lincoln didn't recruit a quarterback every single year. He definitely didn't recruit a highly talented quarterback every year. This goes into my second point. Well, I guess it'd be the third point. So I guess we'll move third point up to the second point. You couldn't stack a quarterback room like Georgia, Ohio State, or Alabama could, losing out on guys like a 5-star quarterback, number 1 quarterback overall, Shea Patterson. Yes, you'd think I'm crazy. In 2015, OU offered this guy. 2017, no 5-star offered. In 2018, you got Trevor Lawrence, right? You offered Trevor Lawrence, but instead, you had to settle for a 4-star, number 11 dual threat quarterback, Tanner Mordecai. You didn't try to go after some of the other highly talented quarterbacks in that class, like JT Daniels, Dorian Thompson-Robinson, or Justin Fields. You went and offered one guy, Trevor Lawrence, and then you had to settle for something a lot less. In 2019, where were the Sooners at? Well, you got Spencer Rattler, so that's good, right? In 2020, you offer a guy like Bryce Young, but you miss out to Alabama and, quite honestly, USC, because he almost went to USC. And you don't offer guys like you offered DJ Uiagalelei, but you lose out on him to Clemson. But you didn't offer guys like CJ Stroud or Hudson Card, who Hudson Card looks like a very serviceable quarterback right now at the University of Texas. And CJ Stroud might go out there and win the Heisman this year. In 2021, you get Caleb Williams, but Quinn Ewers, who you thought you were going to get in 2022, reclassifies to 2021, ends up going to Ohio State University, sitting for a year, getting all of his NIL money, then transferring to Texas in 2022. But you also lose out on a guy like Brock Vandergriff, who ended up going to the University of Georgia. And so far, he hasn't panned out very well. Is that because they're just so into Stetson Bennett, or Brock's that bad? I guess we're just going to have to see. But in 2022, you kind of have the whole squad over here, Jeff Lebby and Brent Venables, scrambling to figure out what are we going to make this quarterback room look like. Because even if we get a true freshman quarterback, is he really going to be able to start in Jeff Lebby's system? Luckily, you get a guy like Dylan Gabriel in the program from UCF. He has been in Jeff Lebby's system. He knows how to run the offense, but it leaves you again with the situation that we're looking at. A quarterback room that is very inexperienced, and they're not, quite frankly, that good. And in 2022, you have to settle for a guy like Nick Evers, who, yes, a lot of us think is going to be really talented, but you miss out on a guy like Connor Weigman. Now, you can say that we missed out on Connor Weigman, but really, we offered two guys in that class, and unfortunately, it was the reclassification of Quinn Ewers, I think, that really put Oklahoma in a hard spot. But I think Lincoln Riley knew this, and that is why he just started to leave early. And it appeared, even though Lincoln was an offensive genius, the guys he did bring in, outside of Caleb Williams, never panned out unless they were a transfer. If you go back and you look at the history of the guys that Lincoln Riley brought in from a recruiting class, the development wasn't there. They all transfer out. You have Chandler Morris transfer out. He's now at TCU. You have Spencer Rattler out at South Carolina, who I believe will end up staying for his COVID year and probably look a lot better behind a solid offensive line at South Carolina. You lose out on a guy like Tanner Mordecai, who is actually at SMU leading. He's one of the leaders in the country right now in passing. And then you miss out on all these other guys because you only offered one, and you got to the end and nobody else was there. So you had to look at the transfer portal. That's how Oklahoma is where they are. You don't look at it and go, well, everybody left. Nobody was here. You had two quarterbacks that were here that were serviceable. And it was because the quarterback room was not built. The quarterback room is not built to withstand something like this. No doubt in my mind, if you have 3 or 4 quarterbacks in that room, you at least keep one of them. You got a guy like Dylan Gabriel come in, and maybe you get a Davis Bevel, a Nick Evers, a General Booty. And all of a sudden, that quarterback room looks a lot more competitive, and you don't end up in the position you're in this year. How does OU prevent from being in this position again? The answer is quite simple. You guys have to be able to go out there and recruit quarterbacks at a high level every single year. Next year, you've got a guy in Jackson Arnold, a 5-star quarterback, the number 5 quarterback overall in that class, who at the end of it, when it's all said and done, could be the best quarterback in that class. That's saying a lot because this 2023 quarterback class could be one of the best we've ever seen, because 1 through 5 could easily be the best. But you've got to be able to go in and year out, whether that's 2024, and be able to go out there and recruit a guy like Dylan Raiola or Julian Sion or DJ Lagway or Jaden Davis. Not the Jaden Davis that is on our team that nobody likes. The Jaden Davis, the 5-star quarterback from Providence Day School in Charlotte, North Carolina. You got to be able to go out there and recruit those guys at a high level year in and year out. You've got to be able to look forward to 2025 and go, we're going to offer a guy like Bryce Underwood from Belleville, Michigan. You got to be able to get guys like Michael Tolifison or Colin Hurley or Cutter Boley. You got to be able to go out there and grab those guys, stack up your quarterback room, and have a competition, but be able to leave yourself for areas so when people transfer out or a quarterback or a coach or an offensive coordinator leaves and takes another position and they might have a quarterback that follows them, you still have depth in that room, and we don't end up where we were at this last year. That's how OU fixes the problem, and that's how OU prevents this in the future. Where does OU go for the rest of the year? Listen, you just got to build on what you have. It's not easy, but you got to do it. You got a guy in Dylan Gabriel who's a junior who could potentially come back next year that you would expect that you would want to see be able to step up in that quarterback room, take a significant leadership role, and be able to teach guys like Bevel and Booty and Bowens and Evers and Ralph Recker. Yes, two of those guys are walk-ons, but you would expect to see him be able to step up, teach these guys the Jeff Lebby offense so that you don't have any more performances like Texas. So that if for some reason he's out, he can be a leader on the sidelines and be able to help encourage these guys and be able to help push them and drive them to be the best quarterback that they can go be. No doubt in my mind, the future is bright for Oklahoma. Like I said, next year, you got a guy like Dylan Gabriel coming back. You could potentially have General Booty coming back. You could potentially have Micah Bowens coming back and Nick Evers. And then you've got a guy like Jackson Arnold coming in. You want the competition to be at a high level, and you want there to be depth. But as the years continue to stack, you want to see OU go out there, offer multiple quarterbacks in that class, hoping to land one of the top ones every single year so that you are not left behind. Look, at one point, Ohio State had a Justin Fields, a Joe Burrow, and a Tate Martell in that locker room. That's what OU wants to have, and that's what OU needs to have to continue to be successful and go compete offensively at a high level year in and year out. Thank you guys for tuning in. I really appreciate it. If you haven't already, please go ahead, like and subscribe. Let me know that you guys are watching. Let me know what you guys think about these kind of videos. If you're listening to this on a podcast platform, whether that's Google, Apple, or Spotify, leave me 5 stars, leave me a review, tell me what you like or don't like about the video. But until next time, let's go out there. Let's get the win this week against the University of Kansas, and Boomer.